All right, we're all pretty much sold on the idea of continuous improvement, right? Those small daily tweaks that are supposed to inch us closer to perfection. But what happens when a little bit better just isn't good enough anymore? Well, that's what we're diving in today, the powerful, game-changing strategy that comes after that. So let's just cut right to the chase, shall we? Is that constant grind of tiny improvements, what we all know as Kaizen, is it always enough to win? And I mean to really win in your market. Because let's be honest, here's the hard truth. It's an absolutely brilliant tool for maintaining stability and polishing what you've got. But when you're staring at a giant wall and you need to get over it, taking tiny little steps, well, that's just not going to get you there. And yeah, that wall, it actually has a name. It's a place I bet many of you have found yourself stuck in. The improvement plateau. Ugh, it's that soul-crushing feeling, right? When you know you're doing everything right, you're tweaking, you're optimizing, you're refining, but your results have completely flatlined. You're pushing harder and harder, and the needle, it's not even moving slowly anymore. It is just stopped. So, okay, why does that even happen? Well, let's break it down. Think about the absolute best process in your organization. You know the one. It's been polished and refined for years. It's a work of art, a masterpiece of optimization. But here's the thing. Even that masterpiece has a ceiling. It hits a limit. It's not that it's broken. It's just done. You've squeezed every single last drop of efficiency out of it. And to get a real breakthrough, you can't just keep polishing the same old engine. You've got to build a brand new one. So how do you build that new engine? How do you absolutely smash through that plateau? This is where you unleash Kaikaku. Now, forget about gentle incremental change. This is a controlled demolition. It's a radical top-to-bottom reinvention of everything. It is the strategic weapon you pull out when playing it safe is actually the riskiest move you can make. The word Kaikaku literally translates to radical change or reform. And honestly, that's putting it mildly. This isn't about tweaking the existing blueprint. Nope. This is about tearing that blueprint up and starting completely from scratch. Look, let me put it this way. If Kaizen is the patient gardener carefully tending to each plant, then Kaikaku is the force of nature that reshapes the entire landscape to build a whole new garden. It's a tidal wave of transformation. Okay, now this is absolutely crucial for understanding the difference. Just look at this breakdown. On one hand, you've got Kaizen. It's bottom up, right? It's all those brilliant ideas coming from your frontline teams making daily work just a little bit better. It's slow, it's steady, and it's super safe. And then you have Kaikaku, the complete opposite. It's a bold, top-down directive from leadership that says, we are going to fundamentally rebuild this broken system. Yeah, it's higher risk for sure, but the potential payoff, it's on a whole other level. So think about it for a sec. The projects in your own organization, which column do they really fit into? But here's a really important point. Kaikaku doesn't exist in a vacuum. It's not some lone wolf strategy you just throw at a problem. To really get its full power, you have to see where it fits into the bigger picture. And that picture is called the Japanese Improvement Triad. And wow, this framework, it's just pure strategic elegance. Think of it like having 3 different gears for driving change. Kaizen is your first gear, right? It's for those daily, incremental habit improvements. Then you shift up to Kaikaku, your second gear. This is your project-based, radical overhaul that takes a few months. And then you've the highest gear, Kakushin. We're talking total, complete disruption, reinventing your entire business model over 5+ years. Now, an organization that can smoothly shift between these 3 gears, that company isn't just lean, it's pretty much unstoppable. Okay, so we've covered the what and the where of Kaikaku, but now we get to the tricky part, the how. And this is the real challenge, because to pull off a Kaikaku project, you can't just sign off on a project plan. Nope. You have to fundamentally change the way your entire organization thinks about solving big problems. And it all starts with this. This right here is the foundational principle. It's a quote from the pioneer Hiroyuki Hirano, and honestly, it should be plastered on the wall of every single project room. Ingenuity before capital. Think about that. Before you go asking for a bigger budget, before you rush out to buy that expensive new piece of software, have you really truly exhausted every creative, intelligent, and maybe even unconventional way to just re-engineer the process itself? It forces a culture where smart problem-solving always wins over just throwing money at something. Now, I know what you might be thinking. The phrase radical change can sound like total chaos, right? But that is the biggest misconception about Kaikaku. It is anything but chaos. In fact, it's a highly disciplined four-phase mission. First, you prepare your teams for the disruption. Then you analyze and plan with almost military precision. Third, you execute that change swiftly and decisively. And finally, and this is so important, you transition that new, way better process back to your Kaizen teams so they can sustain and polish those incredible gains. See? It's radical, but it's not reckless. And when you get this right, man, the results are just incredible. Look, this isn't about choosing Kaikaku or Kaizen. It's about creating this powerful, synergistic rhythm for growth. You take a giant leap forward with Kaikaku, then you enter a period of relentless polishing with Kaizen. And all the while, you're getting ready for the next leap. Leap, polish, repeat. That is the heartbeat of a truly dynamic, world-class organization. So what does a leap like that actually look like in real numbers? I mean, what can you expect? Well, we are not talking about a 5 or 10% bump here. A typical Kaikaku project delivers a 30 to 50% gain in performance. Just let that sink in for a second. That's not an improvement. That is a complete redefinition of your baseline. It totally changes the entire game. And if that wasn't impressive enough, get this, it's fast. These transformations aren't these multi-year drawn-out slogs. The average project window is just 120 days. That's it. 4 months of intense, focused, all-hands-on-deck effort to get a result that would honestly take you years to achieve with just tiny incremental changes, if you could even get there at all. It's a strategic sprint, not a marathon. Okay, but what happens when you go all in? What are the absolute most extreme gains people have seen? Well, the numbers just get staggering. We're talking about real, documented cases of 400% increases in productivity. Or get this, cycle times being slashed to just 1/20th of what they were before. I mean, imagine taking a process that used to take you an entire week and getting it done in just a few hours. That's not just an improvement, that's borderline magic. And that's the power you unlock when you rethink everything from the ground up. So look, if you remember only one thing today, please make it this golden rule. Kaikaku and Kaizen are the perfect partners. They're not rivals. They're not enemies. Think of it this way. Kaikaku is the powerful rocket that blasts you up to a whole new orbit of performance. And Kaizen? That's the sophisticated guidance system that keeps you there, constantly trimming the sails and optimizing your position. You absolutely need the explosive leap, and you need the ongoing stability. You need both to win. And that brings us to the final and maybe the most critical question. And this is one for you to take back to your team, to your leadership. Look, sticking with just continuous improvement, it feels safe, doesn't it? It's comfortable. But in a world that's changing this fast, is safe really enough to survive, let alone win? The real question isn't whether you should embrace radical change eventually. The question is, does your organization have the courage to make that first great radical leap before your competition does?